All right. Uh, let's start by reading the title together. 1, 2, 3, go. Seeing our selection in Jacob. Okay, one more time. Seeing our selection in Jacob. Okay, I'm sure you guys have a pre-concept of what selection is. This topic is a very dominant topic, in Christianity and in religion. But I hope you would take that concept and put it under the rug, throw it out the window for now, because I feel like the Lord is going to speak tonight, and He wants to uplift our understanding of selection. And if we have a pre-concept of selection, that's going to veil us. That's going to stop us from seeing something further. Okay, so I wanna put that away for now, and then let the Lord speak to us a direct word. Okay, so I'm gonna start with this. Our Bible reading is in Acts 7, I think. And Peter was preaching the gospel, Stephen was preaching the gospel, and they both refer to God as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Not just the God of Abraham or the God of Isaac, but the God of these three men. And if you read the book of Genesis, these three men's stories also overlap each other. So it's good to have an understanding that these three men are the full experience of one called one. Okay, this is a complete experience of one called one. Let's have three brothers. Come up here. Okay, so maybe just here. Okay, so this person is Abraham. This one is Isaac, and this one's the naughty one, Jacob. Okay, so let's do a mini recap. What do we see in Abraham? Okay, Abraham was called by God, right? He was in the idolatrous land of Chaldea, and God called him. This is a very important experience of a Christian to be called by God. And what else do we see in Abraham? He was not just called, but he built the altar, right? The life of an altar and a tent. He sacrificed to God. And eventually, he reached this place called Hebron, which means fellowship. So Abraham had fellowship with God himself, but we don't see maturity in Abraham. We don't see transformation. Okay, it's in one of these two. Okay, Isaac. What do we remember about Isaac? Isaac did nothing, but he became rich and became very rich, right? Isaac was just an inheritor. Isaac was just a receiver of everything that Abraham had. He wasn't called, but sad to say, he wasn't mature either. But this is also a very important experience of a Christian, to simply receive from God, receive grace. Okay? And then we have the naughty one, Jacob. And it's very insightful that it's in the naughty one that we see selection. It's in the naughty one that we see maturity. Okay? So we can see that God does not pick based on works, based on how bad or good we are, because even Jacob got picked. Okay? So thank you, brothers. So my point is this. What our topic tonight is not a standalone topic. It's, you can say, a culmination of the past 6 foundation messages. And this is part of a whole, part of an experience of a legit Christian. Legit Christian. Okay? Catch that. Okay. So let's go to the first slide. Let's read this verse, Malachi 1:2.
I love you, says Jehovah. But you say, how have you loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? There's Jehovah. Yet I love Jacob.
Okay, so God loved Jacob, even if Jacob was, he was still in the womb of his mom. If you consider human selection, let's say you have a company or you have a sports team, what would be the basis of hiring or recruiting? Usually it's based on qualification, how good they are. Human selection is based on what we are in ourselves. Okay, write that down. Human selection is based on what we are in ourselves. But God's selection is based on Him and what He wants, which is very insightful, right? It's based on Him and what He wants. I wanna quote Paul when, in the intercollegiate meeting, he made this statement. God is sovereign, and we're not here to evaluate whether, His choosing, He chose this person or not. It's not our job to evaluate. It's just our job to receive what He has chosen. Okay? Jacob, He loved, and Esau, He did not. We have no place to question that. Okay. Next verse, Genesis 25:23. Okay, let me give you a backstory on this one. So Rebecca and Isaac got married, right? And turns out Rebecca was barren. So Isaac entreated Jehovah, hey, can you give us a child? You know, and guess what? God gave them children. And somehow there was a struggle in Rebecca's womb. Like there was like literal wrestling inside. So Rebecca asked Jehovah, what's happening, Lord? And then this is what Jehovah says. 2 nations are in your womb. Not even metaphorically, like literally. Okay, 2 peoples are separated from your bowels. This is the first record of twins in the Bible, I think. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people. And this is the key. The older shall serve the younger. God already knew the older shall serve the younger. Okay, so for those who don't know the story, Esau turned out to be the older one, right? And Jacob was found, when Esau was born, Jacob was holding the heel. What does that mean or imply? Jacob wanted to be first, but then Esau turned out to be first, right? So that's what Jacob means, heel holder. He's trying to be the first one, manipulator, you know. But God chose Jacob before his birth to serve. The older will serve the younger. So God chose Jacob even before that. Okay, that's very insightful. Okay, so before I go on, I'm gonna divert this to our experience. What's in it for us? Okay, so God chose us before our birth. Here is Jacob. Now it's us. Okay, this is one. No, okay, I'm just gonna read this. Even as He chose us in Him before the foundation of the world to be holy and without blemish before Him in love. Okay, say this in your seat. He chose us. It's not a small thing to realize that He chose us. Okay, and He didn't just choose us as an afterthought, or like, oh, He created Bossy, and then, oh, Bossy is good. Okay, chosen. No, He did this before He created the universe. You know, some people are living for the universe, but actually we see here, the universe was created for the chosen ones before, you know, He created the universe. Okay, next verse. Let's all read this together. Your selection. Okay, very simple verse, right? So just a backstory of the Thessalonians. When Paul wrote this church in Thessalonica was only established 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. Very young church, you know? And you'd think, what would Paul say to such a very young church? Well, he said this one thing. Knowing your selection. When you know your selection, you will be very grounded in your faith. Okay? Okay, let's have a volunteer. How about Logan? Come up here. Okay. So imagine this. In eternity past, this is eternity past, right? Before the foundation of the world. God chose Logan, and God put a hook in Logan. Okay. Then one day in time, Logan started swimming, you know. And God, you know, go slower. So you might have friends like this. They're in the middle of something. They're in the middle of this whole experience where, you know, at 7 years old, I got saved. You know, you can keep walking, yeah, but slower. And then they realize, like, yeah, my pastor led me to pray the prayer, and then eventually my parents, man, they're Christians, but they didn't let me do what I wanted to do. They didn't let me do such and such. But now I'm in college, and I'm gonna take my way. I'm gonna go away from the Lord. And yeah, Logan's taking a world tour, exploring the world, trying out things that he's never tried before, some substances, some places, you know. But one day, the Lord tugged and started reeling in, you know. Or, yeah, okay. Yeah, so eventually, you know, you might have friends like this. Okay, thank you, Logan. you might have friends like this who, you know them in high school, and they used to love the Lord so much. And then what happened in college? They're doing their own thing. What happened to them? Well, guess what? Nothing happened. They're selected. Once you're selected, you can't get away from God. You know, you can run, you can try, but you're still hooked. That selection is powerful. Once you're chosen, that's why it's so important to see I am chosen, because you can try to run away, but you can't, because the Lord will gain you back. Just the other last week actually, Paul, Scott, and I were praying for this brother, and this brother went to college with Paul. Imagine how long ago that was. um, they were companions. They were reading the Bible. They were pursuing together. They were praying together. And then this brother went to a certain mission trip, and I think he just got church hurt, offended, stopped pursuing the Lord. Okay, and fast forward to today, he has a wife and 2 kids, just like Paul. He's in Winnipeg, Canada. And he's back in the fellowship. He's really literally asking for prayer. Like, I want my wife and kids to also be in the same pursuit. That brother went away from the Lord, and now he's back in the fellowship. What happened? He's chosen, right? So this is how we, in our experience, know if we are chosen or not. So the difference between the Christian faith and other religions is that they would try to keep you, like, oh, keep coming back to this place and let's do this ritual, blah blah blah. But the Christian faith, you're chosen. You don't have to. I'm not going to try to keep you. If you stop coming to church, the Lord's choosing will keep you. You can try to go far, but you won't go too far. The Lord has His hook on you. Okay, so I hope that's clear. The next thing. Okay, let's read this again. 1 Thessalonians 1:4.
Brothers, beloved of God, your selection.
Notice that it's knowing. Actually, let's go back here. Knowing. It's not hoping. It's not praying for your selection, like, Lord, choose me. No, I know. You got to say it with conviction. I know, right? Okay, raise your hand if you're a runner. Like, you ran away from the Lord and you came back here. I have to raise my hand. I was a runner. That's God's mercy. God had mercy, and now this is proof you are selected. You came back, right? And so what happens when we know? What happens when we know? This next verse. Let's all read this together.
But we ought to thank God always concerning you, brothers, beloved of the Lord, because God chose you from the beginning unto salvation, in sanctification of the Spirit and belief of the truth.
Okay, first we know, next we thank. Thank God always concerning you because God chose you. Aren't you thankful that God chose you? Like, Lord, thank you didn't let me go. I could have been in Vegas right now, or we're still in the Philippines right now, but thank you didn't let me go. You reeled me back to your purpose. Okay, so this is our natural, spontaneous response to God's choosing. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Okay, so now let's talk about what's God's basis. What's God's selection according to? Okay, number 1, His foreknowledge. His foreknowledge. So 1 Peter 1:2. Let's have the brothers read this.
Chosen according to the foreknowledge of God, the Father, in His sanctification of the Spirit, unto the obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Jesus Christ. Grace to you and peace be multiplied.
Okay, remember human selection? Human selection is based on who we are in ourselves. God's selection is based on Him, and here is His foreknowledge. What is foreknowledge? Foreknowledge is, I have knowledge, but you knew it before I did, so He foreknew you. So if I ask you a question, who initiated this relationship with God? You or Him? Him, because He foreknew you. Even out of the foreknowledge of God, He chose you. And out of the foreknowledge of God in choosing you, the Spirit started sanctifying your environment. The Spirit started working. Like, why did things happen the way that they happened in the past? Like Aaron's experience, he has a lot to say. Why things happened the way they did? Well, you've been chosen and God foreknew you. Okay? Next is that it's according to His person. I'm going to highlight this. He's a God. His person is a God who calls, and His person is a God who has mercy, who shows mercy. Okay, let's alternate this side, this verse, and then alternate Romans 9:11. Yeah, this side. Go.
Though the children have not yet been born, nor mercy of God according to selection might remain, not of works, but of him who calls.
What then?
What then shall we say? Is there unrighteousness with God?
Absolutely not. For to Moses he says, I will have mercy on whomever I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whoever I will have compassion. So then it is not of him who wills, nor of him who runs, but of God who shows grace.
Okay, Romans is very clear, right? About, the children being referred to here. That's referring to Esau and Jacob. Though Esau and Jacob had not yet been born, nor had done anything good or bad. That's very clear, right? It's not about us. It's about God who just chose us. That the selection might remain, not of works, but of him who calls. I'm not here, guys, because I figured it out, because I'm smart, because I want to sow into the future about eternity. So I'm going to give up this time in my life, this maybe 100 years. No, it's because God called. This verse, Romans 9:16, personally means a lot to me. Okay, this verse puts me back on ground zero. This verse, anytime I think, oh, Matt did something good, good for God. No, actually, it's God who shows mercy. It's not him who wills, not him who runs, not because I'm running the race fast, not because I'm good, I'm not special at all. God had mercy on me, and God had mercy on you. That's why you're here. By his mercy, you were chosen. By his mercy, you were chosen. Okay? I hope that's clear. Okay. Last, the third one. There's many ways, actually, but I just put three. God's selection is according to his pleasure. If I were you, I would memorize this verse. Let's read this verse together.
Predestinating us unto sonship through Jesus Christ to himself, according to the good pleasure.
Okay. So according to the good pleasure of his will. I was hoping Cass would be here. But let me ask Jack, why do you like Tacomas?
I just really like the person.
Yeah, it's a good pleasure of your will, right? Todd, why do you like fishing? Yeah, it's a good pleasure of your will, right? Why did God choose me? Is there a reason needed? It's just a good pleasure of his will, right? That's why he chose us. And it's not for us to question why he chose us or not. It's just a good pleasure of his will, right? I hope you see that, right? Okay, so I want to direct you to this very important phrase, even one of the most important phrases in the whole Bible, predestinating us unto sonship, okay? So predestination is slightly different from foreknowledge. Foreknowledge is, I know Nos before Nos knew me, so I foreknew. But that was Ephesians 1:4. This is the next verse. After he chose you in foreknowledge, guess what? He predestinated you. Predestinated. He marked you out for a certain destiny. Okay? So let's say I picked Ray. I selected Ray. As I selected Ray, I'm going to mark him. So there's an X now. And he's going to, when all is said and done, he's going to reach his destiny. Okay, what is this destiny? What were we selected for? Okay, you might think we were selected to be saved. That's true, but that's not enough. That's not there's more. But wait, there's more. Okay, you might think we were selected so we can go to heaven. But wait, there's more. You might think, oh, we were selected to not go to hell. Okay, what do you think? There's more. There's more. What does the verse say? Unto sonship. Okay. So this sonship is the crucial point of why we're Christians, of why we're hooked, of why we're selected. It's not for us to be just saved, but unto sonship. Okay. So once you receive the life of God, you're a child of God. So what's the difference between the child of God and the son of God? Okay, so let me start with an anecdote here. If I were to send my 11-month-old baby to a bank to transact on my behalf, you think they will honor him? He can't properly represent me, even if he has my life. He's my child, right? But he doesn't have my sonship. Doesn't have the sonship. So sonship implies maturity in life to the point of expressing, representing, and inheriting. Okay, expressing, representing, and inheriting. So, for example, let's see, what was my example? Okay, if I died today, all my assets, all my properties will be passed down to my 11-month-old son. But guess what? Legally, he's not allowed to receive that. It's going to be put in a trust until he reaches a certain age, a certain maturity, then he can become an inheritor of all that I have. Okay, so this sonship, God predestinated us to have this position as sons, not just children of God, but sons of God. Once we have that position, that maturity in life, we can properly express God, properly represent God, and inherit all that God is. Okay? So what I'm saying here is, God predestinated us to have a mature life. Not just be Isaac's, not just be Abraham's, but Jacob's, to have maturity in life. Okay, I hope you get that. For the sake of time, I'm gonna forego one good illustration here, but I hope you see this. We were predestinated unto sonship. Okay, let's go back to Jacob. Now that you're selected and you're predestinated, you're marked out for a destiny. That destiny in time gets worked out. How does it get worked out? Okay, let's look at Jacob's life. I'm going to give you a rundown of his life. I hope you're paying attention here. Okay, first, bad thing, series of unfortunate events. Jacob cheats his brother, gets his birthright. And then after getting the birthright, he cheats his dad and gets the blessing from Esau. And then Esau wants to kill him. So he runs away from home. I don't know if you're aware of this, but that was the last time he saw his mom, Rebecca. Okay, he ran away from home because his brother was trying to kill him. Then, where did he run to? Uncle Laban. Flesh and blood uncle, okay? Flesh and blood uncle. Then he saw Rachel, very beautiful. He fell in love with Rachel. Guess what? His uncle says, okay, you want Rachel? You work for me for 7 years. Okay. Then, Jacob's so in love with Rachel, so he works for Uncle Laban. 7 years, time flew by. They got married. The next day, he saw, you're not Rachel, you're Leah. Goes back to Uncle Laban. Hey, we agreed on Rachel. Then his uncle is such a conniving dealer too. He dealt with Jacob. Well, in our customs, we always give the older sister first. So you work 7 more years to get Rachel. Okay, so Jacob again works 7 more years. You think that's fun? God was dealing with Jacob. Okay, so now in these 14 years, Laban, flesh and blood uncle, was changing his wages 10 times. Let's go lower. So he's just getting cheated by this other cheater. So God was breaking Jacob. What happens? One day Jacob realizes, I'm out of here. So he marshals all his people and let's get out of here. We're always thinking about, I want to get out of this place. I don't know if that's relatable to you, like roommates, family situations, professors. I just want to get out of here. Well, Jacob's experience of getting out was out of the frying pan into the fire. It was a worse situation. So he left Uncle Laban. He went to Shechem, this city called Shechem. Guess what? His only daughter, Dinah, gets defiled by Gentiles. So his brothers, the brothers of Dinah, were furious. 12 brothers. And then he tells all the men in Shechem, okay, you want to marry my daughter, Dinah? You all get circumcised like us. So they all got circumcised. And then the next day, while everyone was in pain, the sons slew all the men in the city. So think about Jacob's side. What was his reputation like? He was probably like, he was just worried, out of the frying pan into the fire. Then he reaches Bethel. This is not the Bethel from last week. He came back to Bethel already. And in Bethel, Benjamin was born. And Rachel, the one he tried to work for 14 years, died of childbearing, of bearing Benjamin. Okay? So think about Jacob's life. And then, so the love of his life, Rachel, bore 2 sons, right? Joseph and Benjamin. She died because of Benjamin. So there's Joseph, the other loved one. He loved Joseph so much that he gave Joseph a coat of many colors. I'm sure you're all aware of this story, right? And the brothers were envious, so they threw Joseph in a pit. And when Joseph was in a pit, they sold Joseph to Midianites. And then guess what? The coat of many colors, they ripped it and put blood on it. So I'm sure you know this story, right? And then they went back to Jacob and said, hey, your son got attacked by a beast. He got killed. At that point, Jacob was broken. A series of unfortunate events, right? Miserable. And now the love of my life is gone. And her son, the one whom I love the most, is also gone. So Jacob was broken. It seems like out of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Jacob had the worst life, right? So why is this part of the Christian experience? It's very accurate because Christians also have problems. I don't know if you agree with me, but all of us have problems. We'll see that later. Does anyone disagree? Okay, all of us have problems. Okay, so Jacob reaches a point where JC mentioned he's called Israel. He's now the Prince of God. This heel holder, this conniving manipulator, becomes a Prince of God. And in verse 10, Jacob blesses Pharaoh. Okay, and went forth from Pharaoh's presence. But guess what? Before he blesses Pharaoh, he says this to Pharaoh: the years of my sojourning are 130 years. Few and evil have been the years of my life. In other translations, it says, few and unpleasant have been the years of my life. The Lord really dealt with Jacob. And again, I say, this is part of the Christian experience. Why do we have problems? Why do we suffer? Well, in a sense, we're Jacobs. We're going to be from heel holders into blessers. People around us will be blessed by us just by existing. That's the predestination. That's our destiny, guys. I hope you see this. Okay. So now let's personalize it. How does destiny get worked out in me, in you, in nos? Okay. So let's read Romans 8:28 and 29.
Because those whom he foreknew, he also predestinated to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers.
Okay. You might think I'm just like making all this up, right? Like Ephesians 1:4, 1:5. Here, Romans 8:29 summarizes. He first foreknew, then he chose. In his choosing, he predestinated. But predestinated to what? I could have easily handpicked Ephesians 1:5 and made a whole theology out of it. But no, Romans 8:29 is a corroborating evidence. It says to be conformed to the image. To have his expression, the full expression, mature expression of the Son of God. So you become a son of God. Okay, so, and it goes back to Romans 8:28, the most misquoted verse in the whole Bible. Why? We know that all things work together for good. Oh, good. So all things work together so I can get A+. That's good, right? All things work together so I'll be rich. That's good, right? No. You got to read the context. What's the good here? The good here is that you would be conformed to the image of the Son. Okay? So all things are working to this good. So now let's talk about the all things. They're working for us, guys. They're working to work out destiny, to work out our sonship. So all things. Let's one thing comes to mind. You're on a left turn lane by the traffic light. There's 3 cars in front of you, and the light turns green. So the first 2 cars turn left, but the car in front of you is texting and doesn't notice the green light until it's too late, and then then they turn left. By the time it's your turn, the light turns red. What do? All things work together for good. Even that little thing. You can use that little affliction to work out destiny. Think about it. Okay, let's read the next verse. 2 Corinthians 4:17.
Works out for us more and more surpassingly an eternal weight of glory.
Oh yeah. Okay. So this is Paul's realization, right? He wrote 2 Corinthians. Something momentary can work out for us into something eternal. Something light can work out for us into something weighty. Think about it. I hope you're seeing what I'm seeing here. An affliction can work out for us into glory, more expression of God. Okay? So I asked earlier, does everyone have problems? Do you think some people have no problems? I heard this term, it's the Ken and Barbie syndrome. Have you heard of the Ken and Barbie syndrome? You think, in class, that's Ken. Ken has no problems. He lives in a perfect world. Oh, that's Barbie. Her life is pink. Her life, no problems at all. But actually, I was reminded, I have this friend back in high school, and he is our class valedictorian, so clearly he's like smart. And then his family is the fourth richest person in the whole city in the Philippines. And then, he's a cool kid. He's like the guy. That's Ken for me. And I'm not close to him, but the times that I talk to him, he starts opening up. Like he says, he misses his late dad because his father died. And then his mom is always busy running all the businesses. So it's practically him and his brothers. He's lonely. Then I realized Ken has problems. There's no such thing as Ken and Barbie, But from afar, you think, oh, Ken is perfect. No problems at all. But actually, everyone has problems. Everyone has affliction. But the difference between them and us, Christians, even Christians have affliction. The difference between them and us is that we can translate, I like this word, translate this affliction into something eternal, something weighty and an expression of God, right? The same problems, but for us, it catapults us into eternity. Isn't that good news? Isn't that good news? Okay, let's read this last verse.
But we all with unveiled face, beholding and reflecting by a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image, from glory to glory, even as from the Lord Spirit.
Okay, so we're being transformed. You see that? We're being transformed. But there's a condition. How are we transformed? How are we brought into maturity? The condition is beholding and reflecting like a mirror. Then we're being transformed. So in the midst of affliction, in the midst of all things working together for good, your car might have broken down, your engine won't turn on, or I don't know, your roommate started being such a difficult person. That's affliction, but that same affliction can work out for you if you do this. Behold and reflect. Who are we beholding? Beholding God, right? In the midst of it. Okay, I'm not going to share too much. Oh, no, okay, let's just sticks here. Steffi had Isaac tested for allergies, and the results lit up like Christmas. It's like, it's so bad. He's basically allergic to everything. When I heard that, it's like, oh man, I'm going to have to cook a special meal every single time for my son for the rest of my life. I could be in a pity party, self-pity, or in the midst of my problems, I can be beholding and reflecting. So that is an example. And, that's the first thing to go. It's like, oh, Lord, get away from me. Let me wallow in my pity for now. I got a D in class or whatever, a C minus, but the Lord is waiting. He's sending all these things to work out, but there's our cooperation for us to, while we're in the midst of affliction, behold and reflect. Behold and reflect. Then, so how does that look like? It can look like me, Lord, I open to you. Lord, I still love you. Or if you can do it by yourself, you can call, Lord, or Nos, let's pray together. I need a companion right now. Or read the Bible together. A way for the Lord to come into your situation so that it will, guess what? From glory to glory. We were made in God's image. We have some glory because we're in God's image, right? But the beholding and reflecting leads to a higher degree of glory and a higher degree of glory and a higher, until we get what we're destined for, which is sonship. So, okay, let me go full circle on this. You can be on the hook, you can be running away, and the Lord will allow you. Or you can help out, cooperate with destiny, and just run and behold and reflect the Lord and not run out away from him, even if you can. He will allow you, but why not just stay with him? Love him. All things work together for those who love God. Right? So this is the matter of selection. Selection is powerful. Selection brings us to destiny. And selection shows that we can't run away from God. We can. He will allow us, but eventually the reals come back in. Okay. So I think I will end here.